Hi, this is the finished painting we're working towards today, and I put a mount on it so you can see exactly how it will look when it's framed. Now it's a straightforward sunlit stream scene, clear shapes, strong light, and a few of these loose figures that give it life. Now I'm showing you this first because everything here comes down to simple, deliberate decisions. Where the light hits, where the shadows sit, and how much detail you actually need to leave out. Now on the left you've got these warm buildings catching the light, and on the right you've got the solid shadow shape that anchors the whole composition. And the figures sit right in this band of brightness, and that's what creates the atmosphere. Now I'm going to take you through exactly how I built this, the first wash, the shadow shapes, the colour choices, and how to place the figures with confidence. Now it's clear, it's simple, and it's all about strong decisions. So let's get on with the painting. First off, we're going to do that small area of sky. Cobalt blue, lots of water, and want it to be a nice flat wash, so start from the top, plenty of paint, and then bring it down, avoiding the tops of the buildings. You can see there's a pencil outline there, which I've done. And just following the lines. Paper today is £200 Saunders Waterford knot paper. Moving on with the paint using Jaune Brilliant, which is basically raw sienna and Chinese white. Brush I'm using is a number 8 Rosemary & Co. Designer Series 344. I'm going to use it just for these other bits as well. It's a medium size round brush. Just thinking of areas that I can do while the sky wash is wet, so I don't have to stop and dry things off. Big mop now. This is a number 6 red dot collection from Rosemary & Co. Using the same colour as Jaune Brilliant. This is just the first wash, there will be others. The way I work, I tend to put 2 or 3 washes on. And mixing some sepia, wet into wet, avoiding the head of this figure on the right hand side. And that's raw umber, Winsor & Newton paint, watercolours. Dipping into the Jaune Brilliant on the palette. Using quite a large palette, John Pike palette, and I've got the board at a very slight angle just to let these very liquid washes run down just a little. And the paper is taped to the board with just regular masking tape. Don't have to worry too much about this doorway, just going to paint straight over that. We're just going to get some colour in here because I'm going to go over that again. Just want to get some of this paper covered. Always feel a bit better when the white of the paper's gone. You will see me as we go dipping to the palette just with some of the existing colours. That's the way I work. That's why I like to use these large palettes in as much as I can just dip into existing colours. Can't always tell you the formulation because sometimes it's a mixture of two mixes, and I quite like what it looks like. And the white plastic does give you a pretty good idea of what the actual colour is. Just working with my outlines here. Very liquid wash of just something on the palette there, just to take that white for that building there. Don't want everything to be completely white. I'm going to leave the road white except for the shadows. That will really make those come to life. And then while all that's wet, I'm going to make a start on these figures. Just mixing the pink up there, cadmium red and Chinese white. Just doing this lady's top. Quite a classic composition this, where the figures there just take us into the painting. You just follow them along with your eyes. Gentleman next to her. Green top. Sap green. And just taking some paint off with a tissue. Give the impression of some strong light reflecting, making their clothes appear lighter at the top. Then doing a dark green for this guy on the right hand side. Sap green and French ultramarine. Make him stand out against the background, although the background will be quite dark, but I'll have a white outline. And then going into the puddle of paint there, sepia. Starting to do these trousers, merging into the colour of the top. Try and get the consistency about the same when you're doing things like the clothes there, and just let it merge. Don't make one too watery, otherwise the whole of the other colour will just merge into it and you'll lose one of the colours. And then the fourth person, starting the other way around, just doing the trousers and then putting a red top on. Back to using the number 8 round brush. Just putting some figures in the distance there, much too watery. Cover that with a tissue. Going again. Quite a watery wash. I'll try and go with that. Let it dry out a bit. Burnt sienna raw umber. Doing a person coming towards us. Wearing a long top. Just using the number 8 brush. Raw umber. Just a little tiny bit of neutral tint to darken it off. Doing these doorways and windows. Keeping it simple. I've done the rough outlines, guides for you to paint along to there. I do provide a A4 outline drawing in the paint along pack in my Patreon site, which is a good way of doing it. If you struggle a bit with your drawing, you can print it off and copy it from that. I do put a lot of detail in my pencil drawing so that it makes it easier for you to paint along. And then there's these distant buildings, not making too much of them, just some dots and some slotted marks where the windows are. Now going back, Champollion over the distant building there. It's quite a strong colour this actually. I've just got some more on that number 8 brush. A bit small really, but I'm just going to go with what I've got in my hand. Just doing some colour with that. The central bit's going to be quite dark, so I'm not too worried about things bleeding into each other. There's going to be a fairly dark wall with some growth on there, which would be plants, vines growing on the wall, so it'd be quite a dark green. And I've done some white umbrellas in the distance as a focal point. Classic umbrellas in the street. A little bit of a red part on that building there, which will another guide for your eye to keeping that central part of the painting. So it's easy composition, this one. You've got the high walls either side and people walking towards the distant umbrella and building, so quite an easy one to use to keep your eye on the central part of the painting. And then just going around doing these backs of the heads with darkish paint, raw umber, a bit of neutral tint, take a little bit off there, light reflecting on the top of the lady's head. And the gentleman, same treatment, paint it and just take a little bit off with the tissue. And doing this one in raw umber, make it more of a browny colour. Trying to keep that white halo around the top of the person there. Still very wet in the back there, so it's kind of bleeding in there, but no matter. And then the skin colours going in. Don't always do feet, but on this occasion I have done a image of some something on their feet. Grounds them to the shadows when I do the shadows at the end. Just yellow, red, cadmium yellow. A little bit of that white I got on the palette as well, mixed in there. You can do quite a variety of fleshy colours and get away with it virtually up to red. Just getting the first wash and everything here. And just filling in around this taller person in the centre with some shapes at the back there. Back to the large mop now. Very heavy wash now of raw umber. Even this will dry back quite a bit lighter. Just adding some dark to it, neutral tint. Wants to be part of the vines or whatever's growing on that wall there. And I've some green, so going into the sap green. Nice loose expressive work here. Keeping the figure clear though. Keeping the paint around the, I'm going to paint around the figure, as I say, trying to leave that little bit of a halo there. Adds to the drama and light reflecting look. Bringing it down around the other side as well. We'll be going over this right hand wall again. That's the way I work. I quite often put 3 washes on, sometimes 4 is a maximum. Now I'm just working on these main figures here, just putting some pretty much the same colours again, but just varying it a bit, breaking up that flat wash, making it look like the light on the folds of the clothing, just making the more interesting. These are just sort of like cutouts. When you're painting figures, just try and keep the proportions right as well, and remember that unless it's on up a high hill or down a slope, the heads are pretty much the same height going into the distance. So all the heads, even with these people way in the distance, are more or less the same height as those in the foreground. That's all to do with perspective, which I won't touch on in it here because it gets a bit technical, but that's the case. And try and get your figures to come across as actually moving as well, doing the legs slightly different lengths, slightly bent. Try practicing on scrap paper. Just get some figures off the internet, groups of people and that, and just try painting them. Best to use watercolour paper, doesn't have to be good stuff, just so that it gives you a chance to put the broken marks in, which is a bit difficult when you're using the likes of cartridge paper, that kind of thing. But if you just want to get your proportions right, yeah, practice on cartridge paper. Using that puddle of paint on the bottom right there, which I use for other things as well, skin colour and that, and going into the top left raw umber, neutral tint mix, just to give me some kind of darkish colour up there. I want this to be nice and dark. Showcase that figure on the right hand side, immediate foreground, so that it brings it right out in the painting. French ultramarine added to the green mixture. Just letting my large mop with a very fine tip to it, really, let that do its thing. Nice dark edge where it meets the buildings in the distance. Wet on dry. Although there is some still wet paint on the top right there that is just blending in with, but that's absolutely fine. Not worried about that. And now that bottom part's dried, putting in that doorway, the darkest colours I can get. Payne's grey, neutral tint, make a good combination. Darkening up, wet into wet around this figure. Trying to leave a little bit of lighter colour on this right hand side. I don't want that to be totally dark colours. It's breaking up a little bit. And then there's these impressions of buildings in the distance. I mean, with these kind of paintings and loose paintings with buildings in the distance, I mean, you eliminated a lot of the clutter that's actually there in real life, and just bringing it down to a few windows and marks and things. And I think when you're looking at it, your imagination puts everything together and makes it look fine. Still using this size 8 brush. It's got quite a nice tip on it, so I do some quite fine points before I switch to a rigger in a moment. And there's these soffits and windows. Not doing too many. Using restraint on this, so not putting too many in and not always doing them perfect. All adds to this, as long as you paint the whole thing in the same fashion. Obviously get your perspective of the buildings right. You've got to do that, otherwise it's just as loose as what it is. It looks glaringly wrong if you don't do that. Just doing some more marks in the distance now. Just looking around to see where I can put some more darks in. I do like trying to get me darkest darks with the lightest lights, as I was taught. Being very careful with this white umbrella in the distance there to not go over that. Keep that a nice shape. And just dipped into the red mixture there. Now you see I've done the right leg of this figure darker than his back leg there. That would be because the leg being forward would be in the shadow and the back leg would be in the light. It's only a small thing, but it's things like that I try and capture to add to the illusion. And now some real darks, virtually black, neutral tint Payne's grey. Really dark colours there for these vines growing there. Make that real deep shadow, and with a watery brush, using the size 8 afterwards, just to blend in those edges. Very abstract. Going to do some white gouache over this at the end. Could have tried to leave some white marks, but didn't want to do it in this occasion. And then just a greeny tint where there's going to be the dark green light reflecting down. You see how that figure on the right hand side really pops out now, even though it's got a fairly darkish top on, with those leaving those white areas. I will add to those though. I've gone a bit too far over, I think. Covered bits of him up I didn't want to. Now I'm using a larger round. Now this is a size 12 pure Sable Rosemary & Co. Series 99. And Payne's grey with a little bit of French ultramarine. Lighter in the distance, and along that front of the lower part of the building there on the right hand side. And I'm also using a number 2 Rosemary & Co. Eclipse rigger for just do some marks off it. Make sure I've got quite a bit of paint there. Payne's grey. Pre-drawn these shadow shapes as well, because they're going to be covered, the pencil lines are going to be covered with this dark paint. And this is on white paper as well, so if you do it yourself, you don't quite cover the pencil marks. It doesn't matter, because you can eliminate the pencil marks after, when it all dries with the rubber. But I'll pretty much keep to the exact shapes here, because when I drew them, I thought really hard about what it would actually look like with the light, with the sun shining on the tops just in front of these figures. Nice and dark. Really going to make these 4 figures pop. Keeping it simple. Plenty of paint, nice and thick. Like using the Sable, larger Sable with this lovely point, very accurate. You can see what that's done. That's all added to the composition and feeling of movement with these people. And then there was a handbag there, or a shoulder bag, on the left-hand side of the lady, along with the gentleman. And with the when you're doing figures and they're relatively close up like this and very much part of the painting, then spend a bit of time on them and just trying to put them in quick. Think about things like what they would have, and in this case, lady handbag. Give her a slightly different sort of outfit as well. Put a long top and some trousers. And now using this #2 rigger brush to just go from left to right around the building now, just doing some outlines. Putting a aerial or something up the top there of this building just to make that another vertical. Not so sure about these buildings on the right hand side there. I'm going to make them a bit darker. They're too light. Just using my judgment really with these lines. It's another thing to try not to overdo. Don't just make it look like a pen and ink drawing. But just a few guiding marks, just to substantiate what's actually there. Separate things a little bit in a simple way. Spend a bit of time on this, get it right. Making sure those shadows connect with the feet more or less. Unless the foot's raised, and then there'll be a slight gap where the light is, where the foot's coming down. All starting to take shape now. Now I'm going to darken these buildings on the right hand side there, just using some of that darkest mixture on the palette there, which is various colours really: French ultramarine, Payne's grey, cobalt blue. Very watery mixture, but I want to make this darker now. Make them look like they've got buildings opposite that are casting shadows on them. Now I've got white gouache here, dipping straight out of the top of the tube.
Just adding to the whites around this figures, or this figure on the right, and some other bits that I think need it. I've broken up these binds as well as a little bit there, just make it a bit more interesting, really. Just a black and green mass there. Needed breaking up, but not putting too many marks in. Just a few chinks of light. A little bit in that doorway as well. All very restrained. You quite often find when you're doing figures that it's just a bit of sunlight hits the shoulders and the top of the head. So put a bit of white gouache there. Get this feeling of light. Just popping my name on. Getting quite close to the end of the painting now. So yeah, if you do want the outline drawing for this painting, it's in my paint along pack, which is on my Patreon. It's A4 for easy printing, and the pack includes full instructions, all the colours, there's chapters and more, and links to the painting, the original painting. Really does make this painting these much easier, and you get quite a few in the course of a month. Just removing the masking tape. Always remember to pull it away from the painting so you don't tear the paper, and put the masking tape on just before you do it. And there we are, putting a mount on there just to let you see it as it be finished, and hopefully you'll have a go. Hope you will. And that's the painting finished. Strong light, simple shapes, and a few loose figures, bringing it all together. Let's straighten that up. More lessons are on the way. Thanks very much for watching.